my friends, it's time to turn the key. Release your stress and pain along with me, yeah. It's not about perfection, it's about the connection. Now put it on your canvas and let it be.
Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your art Sherpa, and today we are progressing forward on our fantasy wonderful fairy painting. We are having a makeup class, and so if you're coming in here for the first time, this is a class that comes in sections because it's a little more complicated as a painting. We're doing a fairy tale theme every month so that you guys have 12 amazing paintings to hang on your wall at home. If you check the description below, you'll see a link to the website, which will have the traceable, all the videos that we've done so far cached together. Of course, there's the playlist, the Fairy Tale Big Art Quest on YouTube. And down below is all the materials and brushes and things that we use. I hope everybody is excited to continue on this journey today and that you're doing well. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hi, guys.
He's going to make it easier for you to follow along by tracking me. We'll call him a camera tracker. He's going to track me with our cameras. And so that everything that I'm doing, all my brush action, all my paint mixing action, you can see it. I'm going to explain it step by step. The goal being is that you are creating these paintings for yourselves at home. I'm so excited for today. What a wonderful, wonderful week. How's everybody doing?
Very good. I think everybody completely agrees that today is a good day to paint, and it's nice to be back at the easel.
It's so nice to be back at the easel. It is so, so nice to be back at the easel. Well, I'm going to continue on with what I was doing last time when we had discontinued. I had started to put out some paint over here. I have CAD Yellow Medium, Quinacridone Magenta, Dioxazine Purple, sometimes called Diox Purple, Phthalothicane Blue, sometimes called Phthalo Blue. I'm going to put out a little of my Phthalo Green. And interestingly enough, I'm going to get into my Burnt Umber, and we're going to work on our central figure today. I'm going to be using two whites. I'm going to be using zinc white and titanium white in this current part of the project. So that's pretty exciting. A little zinc white there. And you can see right there in the bottle how you can see through the little stripes there. It's a very transparent white, and it does a nice job of very slightly lightening the color without changing the hue. Titanium white is an incredible high-end white pigment. It's a real recent invention in paint, in the history of paint, and we artists are very grateful for it because it's super not deadly like lead white used to be. So I have this here. I'm also going to...
Super not deadly is very handy in paint.
Yes, I'm not saying eat it or do anything with it. None of this stuff would I say like, set fire to it, inhale it, but... in general, as long as you're not putting it in your body, all these are very safe pigments.
Right.
So I'm thinking I'm going to continue on with the wings and start refining and defining those and getting those resolved so that I can do a little bit of an umber study on her face and skin, pull in her hair, and finish out the dress, and maybe a little like grass and stuff around her. We're going to go for about an hour. And then when we come to the end of that, we have one more class scheduled to finish her up. I think we're doing really good. I'm seeing all of your amazing paintings in the Big Art Quest group on Facebook. You guys are doing incredible. I love seeing all those quest posts. I'm ready to hop on in. So since the wing is quite small, I'm going to pick a much smaller brush. And I think what I'm going to do is maybe start with one of my number 4 brights to begin this and then get into, not brights. This is a number 4 cat's tongue. What am I saying? Like I don't know the name of my own thing. So I prime that with a little bit of water. I'm going to get this wet, drag off the extra water. And I'm going to get a little of my quinacridone. And I think for the wings, looking at these, I'm tempted to put out just a little of the CAD Red Medium to brighten the quinacridone where I might want to. It's just a little power tool that I might possibly have. But at the moment, I'm going to just start working with this. Now, I kind of put in a little pink. I'd sort of lightened it up. And now today, I'm going to be resolving this just a smidgy bit. Now, one of the nice things about having a little bit of time to process what you're painting is it lets you look at it. And when you look at things, you begin to make little value assessments. And what's nice about that is sometimes during a painting, you will feel like, oh, I can't really see it. I don't know what's going on. But as you stare at it in a resting state, just thinking about it, believe it or not, you're still painting and your brain will talk to you about different things it sees that you can improve. One of the things that I saw was that I wanted this wing to be a little bit bigger than the wing behind it, just because that's good perspective. So,
But that's because like things that are farther away are a little smaller than things closer, right?
that's right. You know, it's really interesting. Honey is in Bobby Chu's schoolism. And that's what she's covering right now. They were talking about the extreme foreshortening that you do as an illustrator and an animator to create nice dynamic action and drama in your work.
Now,
So that's so nice. I'm just glazing this a brighter pink.
is that what they call?
tongue?
Is that forced perspective?
Well, it is. Yes.
Okay, that's why I was trying to understand that that's what they mean.
Yeah, that's what they're meaning. Sometimes. I'm just going to continue to keep going. You guys have to bear in with me. There's been a lot of pollen in the area lately, and my allergies are acting up.
Yeah, they've been getting me pretty bad too, as some of you guys can hear. I've had a little stuffiness. But you know, they have all sorts of crazy trees that grow around here in Texas.
It's so true.
Kind of like this little
And we have
forest.
gardening neighbors, so we're in trouble.
Yeah, this magical forest you're in. I imagine that she's in pollen, but probably
She's immune to it, though.
Yeah, probably
That's,
immune to it.
One of the benefits of being her is that she is immune. I love this. She's been an interesting character in mythology. Like, if you do any research on Brigid, she's actually appeared a lot. She's a very pro-feminism figure in mythology compared to many. So you can see that I'm just glazing the wings and saturating them. And what's nice is the quinacridone magenta is such a transparent pigment that I can do that and be fairly assured that it's going to come out as a glaze, even through different brands.
Sarah says the wings look radiant.
They have to be a glow, don't they?
They really do look glowy.
They have to be glowy, or it won't feel like she's as magical as she is. And so these are fun things. I like this part of like fantasy art because you can play with things like color and the objects that you choose to put in your composition. I think it just makes it really fun. Sometimes people mistake fantasy art for surrealism, but this is definitely deep fantasy. So that's how that is. I'm going to go ahead. This is a very interesting color mix. I'm going to mix my quinacridone with a little bit of my cad red, and it gives me a more saturated little color. And I'm going to start to create a little segmenting or wing texture. And I'm doing this by just tapping this down. Wings are interesting on, if you like observe butterflies or dragonflies, they have a lot of segmenting. And being able to represent that in your paintings will really help bring those wings to life. So sometimes it's nice when I'm painting something to have like little printouts. I'm going to rinse out a little bit of the different like wings and different inspiration things. If you ever watch like the Pixar's, like how we came up with this thing we're painting.
Do I ever?
I know you watch a lot of those, but they may watch them at home. If you haven't watched the making part of it, it's really amazing to listen to the artist talk about their designing process. I'm using the Diox purple and the quinacridone over here, and I'm creating a warmer purple so that it's not so dark and so it isn't so receded. And I'm going to lift it a bit by the zinc, and you can see what I mean with the zinc about how it keeps the color the same, but it just will lighten it. And that's the thing I really like about zinc as a white on my palette. I'm going to blend this up into this just a smidge. I can always come back with a mix that has a strong titanium in it, But by using the zinc first, then that lets the titanium really pop where it's going to be. And come get a little more of this and just making sure that there's a good shape and everything happening here. I'm going to continue on purple and a little bit of my zinc, and I'll come here. A little stronger on the down wings, I'm thinking. We're going to do some interesting color theory and everything here. So that should be fun to see that come together. So they're starting to happen. They're starting to be little wingies. The other fun color mix I'm going to get into is my cad yellow in my quinacridone. It's going to make a very bright pink. And when I pull the zinc into it, you can really see it, that it's been warmed. It makes it sort of fun. And then when you put it next to things, it gets sort of more interesting in it. I like playing these little warm and cool bits. I'm going to just tap a little of this in here. It's not really an orange per se. It's like a very pink orange that you're trying to make. But it should still be, you know, distinctly pink. See how we got it there? Distinctly pink.
Distinctly pink.
Not quite orange, but we're just layering this first little strata of excitement that we might have in the wings. They're going to come together with the black lining and the very bright light colors. Now here at the edges, I want them to feel a little frayed. I want them to feel a little delicate. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my quinacridone and my titanium white. And you can see that's instantly like a bigger pop of change. A little glaze on here so it's not drying. And I'm going to just come in at the tip of my wings and blend in this very, very soft pink. You guys see that blending in? Just a lot of fun to paint this. Just coming along and having fun and painting this. Just tipping the edge all along the edge of the wings. See? And notice I'm just tapping the brush like I'm doing this tap, tap, tap. That's also going to help enforce that wing shape, wing texture that we're trying to talk about. So just tap, tap, tapping. Get the glaze where you need it, because if it's a hot day like it is here, you may find yourself having your paint dry almost on your easel and canvas so fast that you can't blend or anything. And that happens with acrylic. You got to use mediums or tactics. A little more pink in my white. I'm going to turn my canvas so I have an easier time. It's important to keep it easy. And then when we're pretty happy with that, I'm going to do an interesting thing here. Hopefully it'll work out really well. I'm going to take my phthalo green and my phthalo blue, and I'm going to make a phthalo turquoise. And that's generally 1 part green to 1 part blue, and then you can adjust the mix a little bit by adding more blue and green. There you go, you can see it now. Yeah, that's quite bright and lovely. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to tap my brush, make that little dot, make another little dot right there. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
The turquoise will play against the wing in a very dramatic way. I'm going to tap those down, making those little eye patterns that you might possibly see. Or shorten them a little bit. We're going to put them in a little bit of a perspective there so they're a little bit smaller because that wing is angled. I'm going to dip in water just to make sure the paint is flowing off my brush well.
So all these little dots you're putting in here, this fairy could use to make spooky eyes at night with.
Yes, and wood.
Like if she were in the woods and was like, hey, I don't like you near me, she could be like, ooh, I'm a spooky thing.
She really could, right?
Yeah.
So I'm coming right here. I'm adding a little more. I'm going to get some of my zinc this time and pull that in there. And then maybe down in this part of the wing, I'm going to add a bigger one of these. Another little dot. Maybe there's some of that peeking up here. And there can be a big one in both spots there. So now we have the color on the wing, the drama on the wing that's so fun. I'm going to rinse out this little brush and put aside. And I'm going to start kind of blocking in some of her and some of the dress, but I know I've got to get her in a little bit. And I'm thinking of, and I have been really mulling over using the Grisaille method. If you've been in the quest since 2016, we have a whole quest about it. It's a Grisaille apple, and it takes you through painting the color story, and then you glaze it. And we're going to use something similar here to create her face and skin tone. Something a little different. And you guys are ready for every glaze and every skin mix because you had your worksheet that was complimentary.
Oh, yeah. I like that worksheet too.
I do. I love that worksheet. There'll be more worksheets. I so like the worksheet. To do an umber study, basically, I'm going to be using umber and zinc and small brushes and glasses so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm getting a bunch of detail brushes. So I've got like a number 30 for my ArtSherpa line. I've got the number 0 from the Galaxy set. I have the number 2 Filbert. It's a really great brush. Especially, you know, if you do any kind of detail or fiddly work, it's nice to have those. I'm going to put on my seeing apparatus. And at first, I'm going to just pull out a little of my burnt umber and some zinc. And I'm going to make a nice light mix. And then here is the big thing. I'm going to be using glazes. Now, you could use water or something else, but with the glaze, you know that the paint isn't going to underbind. And I'm going to run off camera real quick. Whoop.
Oh my gosh. I had to mute because the dog started barking. She's barking for no reason. It was unrelated to, I think, you going off camera. Either that. So Cinnamon walked off and picked up a piece of paper. And
scared the dog.
The dog was under my desk and came out like a bolt.
Well, she thought I was like more seriously going for something.
Yeah, she's just like, meow.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at my reference, right? And I'm going to create a value study using my brown paint to show the values on the figure. And then that'll let me make those micro adjustments as you need to. And you can layer up the umber, and that can really help you. So like the first one is just a very light, and it doesn't take a lot. It's interesting. This saves a lot of work for you. Saves you a lot of work. Now, I might have to come in and like I've got a branch coming across her. So I'm going to just real quick lighten that up because I know I'm using such transparent colors. Yeah, I'm doing?
Yeah.
I don't want that to come back later and mess with me. And taking the time to lighten it up right now will make all the difference. And I'm going to be making little micro adjustments to the sketch. The thing I would say is good here is that, you know, I've got the tools to make these adjustments. What I would say is probably not great is that I have them too far away from me. I want to make sure that I'm not setting a bad example and let you know that you should not be rotating as much as I do for our filming circumstances in your own studio situation.
Oh, right. And you're not going to do that in the new studio.
I will not be doing that in the new studio. That's one of the things we're going to fix. Because if I'm going to be painting like I am now these days, all week long and all the time, it's going to be really, really important that I take care of my physicality and don't overtax myself.
Yep.
You can see I'm just adding little shadows where it says there's shadows, and then I can always come back and put in a little highlight where there's a highlight.
I think it's funny how we had to approach your painting like an athlete's training.
I do too. There was a lot of laughing about that.
Like good
We all know
posture.
I'm not athletic.
You are athletic. That's not true. You're very athletic. You were, and especially like when people don't consider you athletic in most terms, but you're really a passionate athlete, especially as it applies to horses and your horseback riding ability and things like that. So,
Oh, that's sweet.
well, you do. I mean, we never talked about it on the show, but you were quite
well,
the
it's
thing.
because that's the old reality, and the new reality is that I'm a comfy kitty. So I'm just trying to find those values, and by reducing it down to this umber study, I can get a lot of little tiny adjustments even on this small figure, and then come in and using the glazing method, get some really beautiful skin tones in the way you might see oil painters sometimes have them.
A moment ago, when you were mentioning glazing, you said that you might have underbinding. What does that mean?
So what that means is that you have altered the paint generally by thinning with water to the point that the binder, the polymer, is no longer able to connect to each other, and it doesn't attach to the canvas or itself. And over time, and unfortunately not immediately, it's like at some point in the next few years, the painting can start to delaminate from the canvas or itself.
So you
the
mean
paint
it?
can peel and bubble up, and that's upsetting if you put 100 hours into a painting.
So underbinding means the paint doesn't stick.
Underbinding means the paint don't stick.
That I think I can track.
So I also have a lot of stuff painted over this arm. I'm going to come back and just make sure that I have a white base or near white base that I'm going to be painting into. That way, when I come back with my umber, it will be there. And also, I've got all these little fingers, and I'm putting in the paddle. You guys have the traceable and the reference. What I would say is the reason I put her hand back in is I really was not sure I liked the covering of the hand with the branch. I wasn't sure that that was my favorite arrangement for this painting. I just want to make sure that I'm getting the stuff I need to get to put that in, and I'll do the other side as well. Just making sure that when I come in with my umber, you can see it. It's an important thing. Now I know I've got a nice white highlight right here. And I may move this reference closer to myself so I can see it better.
Yeah.
That's always super helpful.
Does varnishing help underbinding?
No.
So it still underbinds. The varnish might just help seal the underbinded stuff
Temporarily.
inside. But it could still laminate and
it could still just come off with little flakes of varnish too.
Gotcha.
That's, and here's what I'll say on this. This is not good if you're a restoration specialist, and perfectly fine if you're an artist. And a lot of famous artists have felt this way, which is that restoration is the problem of restorers. You paint how you want to paint, and the restorers will handle it. I'm just obligated as a teacher to tell you that information. All right? I have to tell you that. I would not be a nice teacher if I didn't mention it. And so I try to be a nice teacher by mentioning those very, very important things. I'm just trying to catch the values of her face. There's generally a lot of work in the face, and so no point but doing it anyways. And I'm going to get right into my tiniest brush. I'm hoping the new palette, if we can get it working, will actually be like right where I can get to it. Depends on how the camera is working. Got a lot happening there. So initially first, I'm going to just get in the little shapes and things that I'm seeing. The other thing that this lets me do is it sort of lets me work out a lot of this early on.
Oh, Amanda, I'm jealous. She's going to Scarborough Fair this weekend.
Oh, congratulations, Amanda.
She says she's taking photos of all the mermaids for reference photos, and
Good for you.
she's like, she'll be posting them online so we can go look at them.
Oh, thank you. Are you going to share them in the Big Art Quiz?
I think she offered, so I think
so.
Oh,
yes, please. That's totally fine. I would love that. You can see I'm just working out the transition of these shadows right now. Just building up these layers. Yeah, I'm going to have hair. I'm going to have stuff. This is a little bit like, if you guys remember that I did Jon Snow and Daenerys. I'm just using a little bit of this method to do that. This is always really challenging for me right around the nose. Noses are challenging, aren't they?
my nose is challenging. Although I think, that's noises are like voices. Everybody has one, and they don't like their own.
They don't like their own. They don't like their own voice.
I don't like listening to my own voice.
You have a really nice voice.
But see, there you go. And I think I have the most annoying voice on the planet. And so there you go.
I'm good with it.
Well, luckily you have to live with me, so you're the only person. Well, and everybody else who's tuned in,
Yeah,
but they're here voluntarily.
Now we got some other people that have to put up with this,
but they voluntarily showed up. So
it can be really challenging to work small.
Yeah.
Right? It can be a super challenge to work small. And what I find my strategy for kind of keeping it together and being okay is that I just do it a little bit at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to solve the whole thing this second. I'll solve some of it, and then I'll solve some more of it. And, hopefully over time, I'll get there. Remember, you can paint the white over if you take out something that you needed. I'm just trying to make sure that I get a nice face going in, because her face working is going to be a big deal for you.
I think her face coming in here looks really cool.
This is a great way to do this. This isn't the only way to do this. This is just a great way to do this. And by taking the color out of it for a second, you can kind of work so much stuff out, can't you?
Yeah.
And what I found is that I can build up little layers of color and value, and then come back and adjust those layers of color and value and start to improve how I painted it.
Patricia was asking, she's heard of Brigid as a goddess. Are there stories of her as a fairy?
There are a ton of stories. So, she's she's been in Danish mythology, Irish mythology. She's been all over the Isles. She's had a lot of reborn visitations. One I read had her as a fairy, and I just thought I really, really like that. And then I was like, the next part of that decision was like, well, it's my painting and I'm doing it.
That seems like a good way of doing it.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you start with something, you begin with something, and sometimes you're like, okay, for this piece, I'm going to really, really be very true to the original intent. And then sometimes you're going to be like, no, I'm going to take this a different direction than anybody might expect. So you can see I'm just building up these layers of value. Giving myself a little chance to maybe have an easier time. I can come here and get a little of this white, and so I can, tap a little there. And there's always an interesting reflection on the nose. It tends to come up, and We can come right here on the forehead, making a nice little reflection. Get some shape going. If the titanium is white is too much, remember you guys can go all zinc.
Yeah, titanium being a very opaque color, right?
Right, and zinc being a much more subdued, transparent color, so you can actually lighten in very soft micro steps with the zinc.
And that's how you're able to make the umber study using the more opaque pigments of acrylic over oil.
No, you would never paint acrylic over oil.
No, I mean like
Oh,
oil paintings are traditionally used for Grisaille,
yeah.
and
Well,
they're
this is
thought
a method that the oil painters came up with. Some of that is because there's acrylic paint is super recent,
right,
so there weren't a lot of acrylic painters until recently. So there's that.
right.
But a lot of it is just that this was a method that was developed by painters. You might have like, so if you think you didn't have photography, you might have camera obscura and pinholes and stuff for projection. But a lot of the tools that we get to enjoy now, you might not necessarily have. And this was a method that they devised to help them work out a lot of stuff in the portrait or painting without having to worry about the color. And also because color was so expensive, like if you think it was worth it to steal pigment on your fingers, like that's what it was for artists.
Yeah.
Like just know your feelings about the cost of art materials. This is something you share with every artist through the history of time. They
Yeah.
all agree with you. It's super tough. So I'm going to make sure I get the arms kind of in. Once I get my fingers, I may switch back to my bigger brush, but I'm like, well, might as well go ahead and get my fingers in. And I don't really have, a study, so I have to kind of spend some time remembering things that I know about hands, about like shadows and knuckles and making sure that I've got what I need to have my hand. You guys know I love the paddle method, which is if you look at a hand, it kind of reminds me of a paddle. And once you get that shape in relationship to the wrist, it's a lot easier to get the fingers in. If that makes sense. Makes sense to me. But we do know one thing. We know at the arm right here, everything close to the body is a lot darker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even though she's quite fair. Everything close to the body is just a lot darker. This is another good strategy. And it lets you see what you're up against. What am I doing here? Oh, I gotta darken this and I gotta do it at the waist bend. You can just keep layering up that color. Yeah, there's a lot of hair covering this up. And so you might think that that is, pointless if you're going to be covering it up. But actually, as different little elements of it peek through the hair, it's going to make a big, big difference to how she comes out. I can have a nice time even shadowing the wrist right now. And again, remember, if you over darken, you can always come back with your white, right? And add highlights to things. See? Or your zinc. There's like a little one right here. And just because we're putting this in this way now, it does not in any way mean that we won't. I'm going to take a little of my green here and a little of my head yellow, and I'm going to make a glaze. I'm going to knock it back with just a smidge of my umber. Just so that, yes, there's hair, but I just want to make sure that this is clean near her. See what I'm doing? Sort of blending this into my background.
Oh yeah.
I'm just making sure that the color around her is considered and thought out. Even around her fingers, because that will help them pop.
Now, what brush is that you're using?
I am using my 3/0 ArtSherpa round. When we designed the line of brushes, I knew that to do eyes, to do lips, to do work like this, I needed a couple small brushes, and so I have 3 to do detail work. So I have a Filbert and 2 small details is my Filbert. And so there's a 1 detail, a 2 Filbert, and a 3/0. And that pretty much covers like right up to miniature painting for D&D, everything I need.
Man, I can't wait to do some D&D miniature paintings. Now that I've learned what an umber study is, I feel like, Fosley and Goodall out in D&D land studying umber hulks, doing an umber study.
Well, that's funny. That would be really funny.
That would be.
Super
have-
funny.
You'd have to you could recreate their characters as like elves and dwarves or something,
Yeah.
out studying umber hulks. That'd be kind of cute. For the 2 people in the world who know who I'm talking about.
There might be 2. There might be more than 2, though. I think there's some million sub channels on miniature painting. So
I mean
doing
like Jane Goodall and
Oh.
Deanna Fosley or
Okay.
Fosley or Fossey or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it. She was a primatologist. Studied
Oh,
gorillas.
I see what you're saying. I'm sorry, but that was a
No, I mean like
dirt moment for me.
Like I said, I'm
I'm going to switch to my Filbert for a minute just to get some good blending. And just keep working that space. Want some nice blending. And I wasn't getting it with my smaller brush. The thing is you always want to have something that's the right size for where you're working. Right size for where you're working. Work the paddle, which is the part, see this part of the hand, and see now and then it's easy for me to build some thumbs and fingers right off of that. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun until you get to a lemon squeeze. And you're like, oh no, it's a straighten out our gossip party. No.
Is it Lemonhead?
Mm-hmm.
Who had the
Lemon grab.
lemon? That's the guy they care from.
That's the guy.
The guy.
That's the guy, man.
He freaks me out, and I like him all at the same time.
I think they worked really hard on that design with him. It's interesting to see the quality of the animations now. If you watch this all the time, you probably have picked up that I like Steven Universe.
A little bit.
The thing about that show is the quality of the work, the storytelling, everything. I mean, it is amazing.
Yeah.
The life lessons, the messaging. I mean, not since Star Trek have I seen a show tackle like current issues in that way. And be like all cool. Now, I gotta straighten out my little dress here and this little background. So I got some stuff happening here. I get a little my magenta.
We just crossed 38 minutes and 38 seconds.
All right.
I like
so
that.
see, this was actually, it took a little longer than we thought, right? And that's the thing with this sort of detailed work is how do we get the space in? We're gonna go for a bit. We might go a little over the hour.
That's okay.
Just to make sure we get a certain amount done, guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure we get a certain amount done. You'll notice I'm using the brushstroke here to help enforce the idea that she has a bosom. So there's a lot of ways that I'm going to do that. One is, highlights and shadows, and other ways that I might do that is that shaping.
The brush stroke.
Yeah.
Just for directionality.
Yeah, it starts to tell that story, doesn't it? Just make sure that that's all good right there. Sometimes I'll wipe my brush off and move the paint. The thing about the more fantastical sometimes your work can be, and I think work should be fantastical, the more you've got to be comfortable with the time investment. I'm going to go ahead and use this to talk about the shadow just a second, but I'll probably come back with blue there. I'm trying to catch this really important shadow at the crooks of the arm. If I need to darken my umber, I could use black, but in this particular case, I'm going to use blue. As long as there's more brown than blue in the mix, it won't go green on you. There's a perfect moment when you can kind of get a great gray out of it. And I'm going to work maybe the little shoulder crease that we have here. It's coming around and make sure that there's a dark little shadow that we're talking about under the little strap. I can come here across and hit that little elbow. And we're just proceeding cautiously, right?
Now, we're currently at maximum zoom for these cameras, but our new cameras can get even closer.
You cannot believe it's, but.
And you know what? We can go live from the macro cam.
No way.
Yeah, so I was just thinking about that. I'll have it up on a. It'll be set up next to the palette.
You didn't mention that.
I didn't think about it until just now. I was like, you know what? I should just throw that over there because that'd be fun.
Nope, they have to wait for the whole reveal, don't they? I don't know.
Well, our patrons don't. They get sneak peeks.
That's true, they do. It gets a sneak peeks. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to give myself like those blocked in values where like, oh, I have a shadow, I have a highlight, and then I can go back into my white, right? And then just put those highlights in. So I know I've got a nice one here at the top of the shoulder. A nice little highlight. And then there's certainly one down the front of her bicep that's happening. And then a bit of one down the front of the arm. And that's what you're doing. You're just trying to make sure that you've got those values, that some of that is thought about there. The further you take this, the easier when you go in to paint her in all that little delicate work.
I have an idea.
Yes? I'm
going to try something on this camera.
Okay.
Everyone will talk. Can you go over there to that? I'm going to show you what I'm going to zoom in on that lens digitally.
Okay. So
that when you're over there working, I can zoom in for them even more, but it's going to be a digital zoom. So we might lose a little optical sharpness, even though.
I'm going to sip some. Dude, I love my glasses. I feel like they need some like rhinestones and things.
I figured out I can help them. I love your glasses, by the way.
I do too.
I think they look very cool.
I do too. I'm really into it. It may be that my grandmother wore these glasses, and I'm having some sort of like feels about that because I really love Grandma Betty.
Now I'm sure you're freaking everybody out drinking out of that solo paint cup there, which is not a solo paint cup. It's a.
Hey, I win cups.
Right.
I win things at the restaurants. Especially if it's like, if they set it up like based on any college party games.
Oh, yeah, the drop a quarter into the...
Look, I dropped my glasses into the paint. Look. They got it. I'm just misting everything because it's so dry.
That helps the sled on the dry time, right?
For me, it does. I could do a wet palette. I have not yet found a wet palette that I really love. I have a cake plate hack that's sort of free that you can do for those, but I'm not a big fan of wet palettes at the moment. Could change at any time. So I'm loving this. I got to put fingers in, and then I got to define some wings and maybe work the dress a little bit. So let's see how we progress forward.
All right.
I think we're whipping through.
Yeah.
She's looking kind of good.
She really is.
She really is. She's looking kind of amazing. I'm loving it. Are you guys loving it?
Oh, yeah.
There was a suggestion, and we're going to be getting this in the Mermaid, and I'm going to try to go back and build them about getting pictures of the stages and creating like a step thing. So it is being worked on. I totally saw that in group, and I took that suggestion to heart.
Oh, cool.
Back with the glasses so I can see the things, and I'm going to put out, well, I don't have to put it out yet, but I'm going to put out this black fluid in a second, but I got to do her fingies. So let's just get some, for the purposes of this, we're going to get some just burnt umber.
You have to bear with me because I'm going to try to zoom in for them a little bit more.
Okay. I'm going to try to paint a finger. See how I do. I'm going to make sure that I pull a thumb down here. Yeah. All right, off here. Go behind the dress, but I just definitely want the thumb. And then I'm going to do a longer finger here. And this is always a challenge, right? Because like it, especially on small, tiny bits of things, like it very small micro issues become big issues fast, don't they? On things like hands. And I hear you guys talk about it like my hand looks like a, but really you just got to remember that there's a certain positioning of fingers unless you're changing those for fantasy reasons. So, you know, this finger in general will be shorter than this finger. These two will often be around the same height, and then you back this to the second joint here. If you have not, you know, treated yourself to, oh, this is the number 0 round in the Galaxy set that I just picked up. I think it was just clean, and I thought it would be good. All right, so we're making some headway there. I'm gonna let that dry a bit. That should get me through getting her in the rest of the way. And I will rinse this out a lot and put it to the side. Now on the wings, I'm gonna need a detail brush too, because any kind of like black detailing, and I like to do the black and then the white. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load my number 2 Filbert up with this. This is carbon black fluid paint. The combo of this detail brush and this paint is going to help me get really fine, delicate lines. And that is going to be a huge, huge deal on these wings. I'm not blocking it, am I, John?
No, I've got you. I've got it moved over there so I can see there.
See how that it goes a long way. I can just, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to have this sort of like fine line. And then here at the tips, I'm going to, without taking out my fine pink,
Sorry.
I'm going to create a little bit of a banding or border of this black. And I'll be using soft lining techniques and tapping techniques to do it. I'll be rinsing out pretty regularly so my brush doesn't have paint drying on it. See, I can just use this and I find these little edges and I make them a little bit like rakier. And again, you can do any wings. This is just the beginning of the conversation for you, I hope. I hope when you think of this, you think to yourself, I could go get my favorite wings, my favorite girl, my favorite garden scene, and just using them as lighting references, I could put together any fantastical scene I want. That's pretty exciting stuff, in my opinion.
I'm pretty excited about it.
I like doing little fairy wings. They're super fun, and I love making them all sort of crazy, crispity.
Hey, you think we're gonna finish outlining the wings here today before we go?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. I like this. I like how
We're gonna finish the wings completely before we go. We're not going off until the wings are done.
well, see,
Like it's not even an option.
I've got us closed up on those wings now. Oop,
Oh, do you?
I do.
Oh, excellent.
I found the Wayne and Garth button.
So my little trick will be, I'll be letting this dry and rest for a minute, and then I'm going to come to this wing and this wing. Put out way too much paint. But I have paintings to do after, so that's okay, and I need some of these colors. And I'm going to hit all this sort of outer fringe lining, and then when I know these are dry, be it through hair dryer or letting them dry by time, Then I'll come back through. I love that. I like that little delicate little messy edge. You know what that tells people? She's not a throne queen, she's a battle queen. That's what that tells people. Or at least in my mind it does. It may not until I said it.
those wings have seen some speed.
They have seen stuff happen. And so in your character, tell a story to yourself when you're creating characters. You know, there's all kinds of things in character creation. There's wonderful stuff that you can do. You can exaggerate features. You can increase gesture. That's the movement in the sketch. Like she has this gesture that I've sort of implied. And then there's this part of the gesture. And these two things tell you something about her because she's central. She's very serene. And then you create other little elements that say, but not all the time is she serene. And these are the things that make artists storytellers. And we should be storytellers. Right? If you're a new artist, you're still a storyteller. Think about every kid you've ever sat down next to who's explaining their drawing to you. They're storytellers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're not like, oh, am I a professional artist? No, they're just storytellers. It's just like, this is what I'm doing. I'm telling the story. This is like the thing that's happening. And you're very lucky to be sitting with me hearing my story.
And if you're not familiar with this, go find a first or second grader
that you have permission to talk to.
Yes, I have my own, so I don't.
Don't just randomly grab other people's kids. That's not well received.
Not to no. But if you have your own or access to families of your own
Color
family,
with the kid.
Sit
if
down.
You have a legal reasonable access to do so.
We're so disclaimer
I just don't
oriented
end up
now.
Being famous for like, and this YouTuber told people to grab children and color with that.
Oh, so give your kids, grandkids hugs and nieces and nephews hugs, and then listen to them tell you the epic story of whatever it is they're coloring.
Yeah, and you take that into your own life. I'm gonna just look at this real quick up on the big screen and sip some water. See how that instantly starts to bring those wings into bear? And she's so saturated, isn't she?
She is just screaming, I am a fairy.
Right? In the middle of this forest, it's like, so I can do these pictures, but I can't do justice to what my paint can do.
No.
I'm working on my digital art skills now, though. But, and then I'll be able to. But there's just a luminosity that you can create. And it's fantastic. And there's no limit. None. No limits. None at all. All right. And we're just going to go today until we get to a good breaking place.
So it's good. There was someone I missed her name go by, but she said that she was absolutely mesmerized by what you were doing and found herself leaning in so that she was 12 inches from the screen, looking at what you were doing so intently, and just sort of caught herself laughing. And I was like, man, I find myself totally there with you, but I have this remote control with the camera, so I'm super intently watching it. It's like,
well, no, I actually get that. We can't tell you what it is because it's a surprise new series. But
you can't.
No, I'm gonna hint, because here's the thing. So we're doing this stuff. And we found ourselves absolutely all leaning in. And the kids would come in to see, and they would get so entranced.
It was awesome.
They kept bumping our space because they could not stop leaning in. And I was like, we were doing it too.
Huh?
It was exciting.
Very much so.
So I get that. I'm going to layer this wing behind the first one. Now, I know I've got a whole crush of hair that's coming here. So I'm okay. Right. I've got plenty of wing attached for the amount of hair that's going to be coming down the pike. And you can always come in here with a little bit of the black at the back of these bottom wings. Because all it's going to do is give you this stark definition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, there's no limit to how colorful you can make your wings. There's not really any rules. If you've ever watched any of the face-off shows or any of those art challenge shows, especially where they're creating characters, my favorite obviously being the Jim Henson one, with puppeting. Like that is just so cool that that's still an art form, man. I like the cosplay show too. So here we go. I've got that all in now, and I can start working some of my veining details, and every detail is going to just bring it into another space, and another space, and another space.
This is going in really quickly.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I'm
Like,
I'm like
I
going.
feel like it could be quick.
It's going in so fast.
So I too use my references. I won't always like be, again, the reference is a guidance for me. It is not, something that I feel like, oh, well, I have to just do exactly what the reference says. So I'm wiggling this back and forth, and you're going to see me kind of mimicking the patterning and everything that I see here. Making sure that these have that feel around them. That's going to be key. Probably should have started at these. But you start where you start. You're just making sure that your wings have that authentically real feel. Hopefully without smudging. I realize I've got to work these though. I'm like, oh, I started in the wrong place. What's interesting when you study insect wings is they're not colored the same on the inside as the exterior. So they have a side that is more heightened in its color, which is kind of interesting, I think. Right?
yeah.
And that lets me imply that there's some symmetry here that we're just, not seeing because of, certain things, certain ideas. Now I can take this and go ahead and finish that out. I can connect a vein here. That creates a little vein area. Maybe this one has a little vein that's coming right there. So the veins are how flying moths and butterflies inflate their wings when they come out of the chrysalis, I believe. John's nearer the Google, so he can totally be like, yeah, that's not how it works. Or I'd be like, oh yeah, that's totally how it works. Completely it.
I'm reluctant to Google things while doing this because I have to switch and like watch cameras and like chat. Sometimes I can Google things, but I don't know. Let me see if I can find out maybe.
I'm just using the wings as a reference to think about textures and the way I might want to see these wings represented. I'll look at it again big. Don't feel pressure to just like pop through things and be like, oh, I've got to just have this done in 2 seconds. I've just got to have this done in 2 seconds. Sometimes it takes a minute. And never, never, never be afraid of iteration, which means that you do something more than one time. John will tell you, I paint a lot of paintings that don't make the show, and it's not because they're bad paintings. But maybe they just didn't execute the way I was trying to intend to make them execute, and I just spend a little more time with them. I'm just trying to create little patterns that are believable little veins. I feel like, oh, I could have inflated this wing if I had wanted to. And I think I'm going to hop out. Well, actually, I'm going to blackline this, and then I'm going to hop out, and I'll get some white. I might be able to do it with the heavy body white. I'm just going to keep going with my lining. The lining is important.
Well, it would seem that insect wing veins are a complex science.
They are.
They do all sorts of things from, having different naming for different parts of their wings to different uses for it to being part of the muscle and exoskeleton structure to
Oh,
be
good Lord.
music making components. They can be communication and signaling and like for fairies use them optically, crickets use them orally. It's there's a or I guess they use also their rear legs, but there's other creatures
I'm
that
just
use
trying to figure out why a cricket would use it orally.
to make noise.
Oh, okay.
To make
For
audibly.
acoustically. Okay.
Audibly. Audibly is the word, not orally. They don't eat with their wings.
I was like, I did not know that, and I'm freaked out by crickets already, and now you've just freaked me out permanently about crickets.
I always think of crickets as singing. So I think that's why my brain did that. But the point being is that the veins of insects on the wings have many, many, many uses.
They do. So, and the other trick you can do is you can not line everything and imply some lining, and sometimes your eye will finish it out for you. And that also works incredibly well. So, I'm not married to just any one thing here. Nothing wrong with my marriage. I'm not anti-marriage. I gotta stop saying that. I'm gonna keep getting inbox messaging. So, making sure that I got my veins in my wings. I might turn her to the side just so that I'm comfortable while I'm working. One of the things I think is super important is that you and I and everyone as artists recognize that, our body posture and our physicality is a factor in our painting process. And that if something is painful, you should totally stop doing it.
Yeah. That's making sure that you pay attention to your posture and your layout. Something we're doing a much better job of in your new studio, eh?
Yeah.
And everyone's super excited about that. They're like, when are we going to see it?
We're going.
Soon.
So we went for the technology expense instead of the construction expense, and that's why we slow. Because we're like, we watch HTV, we're going to build this, and that way more of our resources go to the tech. Because that's honestly the hardest part to get.
Yes. But the tech is, well, that's already figured out. So we've got some cool tech that we're doing like
tech's
right
all
now.
resolved. All the big stuff is resolved. Now I just have to, do stuff.
And that's and it's being built. Like there's a
studio. It's much further along than you guys think.
Some of the patrons know they got that.
Well, no, they just got a peek. They're going to get another peek soon.
Well, that's what I mean. They got to see the peaks. There'll be more peaks going out that way.
I love sending out the peaks. So once I get that all in, right, then I can add some little accent pieces and stuff that will help this feel more, like a wing. I think it can be real nice to get some green and then a little of the yellow just to brighten it, but you really want it to be quite green. And then I'm going to take a little of this and I might, that's not really going to pop. It needs to be more yellow. Pop, pop, pop.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
Yeah. Don't necessarily have to put it everywhere, but you can put it some places. Like that there's something afoot there about that. I think that's fun. And then I'm going to get my white. As soon as I know my brush is clean, clean, clean. Clean, clean, clean. And then I'm going to add a little white dot. Things. It's really just about, just thinking about what would the What would a butterfly need? What would a fairy need? You know, for survival. We don't know what kind of predators she's got to deal with, right? Like,
Oh, this is really interesting. I was sorry, I was a little distracted. Luis was saying my hand shakes a lot, not just while painting. And what I found works best is to make straighter lines, is to hold the brush at an angle so the hand leads in the direction I'm painting.
oh, that's a wonderful way to do that. That's
Yeah. I
wonderful.
was like, yeah. So I was like, sometimes my brain is like kind of goes flatline while I'm reading, so it's like, sorry about that.
That's a wonderful tip, and I
Yeah.
want to thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, dragging the brush towards the direction. That's really awesome. Thanks. And what's that stick thing?
The mall stick.
I wasn't sure how to say that.
That's good if you're standing at an easel, and a bridge is if you're sitting at a table. And those are things that you can get at the art store. Now I'm going to stand back and I'm going to take in my wing and assess, how do I feel about it? Do I feel that it's regal? Do I feel like it's the wing a queen would have? I feel like it is.
I
feel
think so.
strongly like it totally is. Exactly. I'm going to do a little work because I've got some paint out on the dress.
Okay.
Like a little more, and then we're going to hop off and then meet again next week and finish her.
All right, no problem.
All right, so just a little more work.
Just a little more. That the Sherpa, when she says just a little more, that could be 2, 3, 4 hours at the easel.
No, it's okay.
But I mean, just you do have a tendency to like to paint.
I do like to paint, and I'm not saying I'm done painting today. I am totally not done painting today. I have a bunch of projects I have to finish up. So, there's a lot going on. I'm going to load a bunch of my glazing medium in my brush, and I'm going to grab my zinc because I want some bright colors. So this is much more of a turquoise. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to try to start to define some of these folds. Much more. So we were very, very light and flowy last time, and we definitely put a great foundation in for our dress. But now we got to take it to that next level.
Now, which brush are you using?
I am using the number 4 cat's tongue, which I've used a lot in this painting. I know.
Now, can you show me how you loaded the brush? Because that had this really cool. There was like this lighter color on one side and a darker color on the other.
So basically, I just got here and I just grabbed some color.
Yeah.
And it's all sort of mixed there. And as I'm going,
Can I see that on the close up there so they can? Yeah. Okay, so it's all like marbled on the brush.
It's all marbled on the brush.
And that's how you get that.
Yeah. I'm going to just make sure that I've got something. There's a lot of work in the dress to do, and so making sure I'm making headway on that is a very important part of my management of my time. And I had started to color this, and I knew where I wanted to go. Sometimes that's just hard to show in our pictures. I wanted to really, really pop this. Now I'm going to get my glaze. And I'm going to continue this on, but more glaze. Can you guys see how this is just a glaze?
Yeah.
So that's going to pop it into some different directions. We have those very opaque spaces right up into here. Softly blending this. And then I'm going to rinse my brush out a bit. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my quinacridone, my pure quinacridone. I'll load up with my glazing medium, my titanium whites. The pink is quite bright. And I'm going to be coming back up, and I'm going to try to talk a little more about some of my folds by using my pink.
That's really transparent, huh?
It's very transparent, and I'm just working them together to create the folds of the fabric. Get
Oh,
some of this over here. What's interesting is when you get a little of it into your turquoise, right? Like, so if I take a little of my turquoise mix, which is, you know, 1 part green, 1 part blue, I can always get a little of that in there and then get this darker
oop.
value. Right? And whenever we're painting the folds of fabric, we're painting these darker values. We did this on the cloak. So you guys have some familiarity with this, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. I seem familiar with these colors for sure. I have seen them
Somewhere?
before.
Somewhere before?
This palette seems somehow familiar.
I don't know what you're hinting at. What are you hinting at?
I wouldn't quite say deja vu, but you know.
Where's the deja vu? Where's it from?
I'm just giving you a hard time. The colors. I like the this purple and pink magenta
Oh, it's
color.
like hot right now.
I love it. It's just so pretty.
We're just going to want to talk about how this is.
So you're just sort of those strokes that you're doing right there.
We're just talking about the folds of the fabric, but we're doing it in such a way as to play with color and those things.
The way it layers on there, that sort of magenta on aqua e teal. And it just also, and each of those strokes makes a little transparency.
It does.
And it
It's
makes
magic. So magic. And you gotta love it. We don't gotta. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna come in your home and be like, you didn't love it. Out.
now a lot of this is the combination of materials you're using here.
Yes. This is just years of knowledge and playing with product and going, these are results that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, an interesting fact about this, right?
What's
Is
that?
at some point, this was an accident.
This is true.
At some point, I did this accidentally, and then I saved it in my little artist kit as like, well, it wasn't what I was trying to do right here, but someday.
Like, that was neat.
Yes.
Not what I wanted, but that was neat.
And one of the things, the differences between an artist that has been working for a while and artists that are new is artists that have been working for a while, we look for these moments.
You know, I seem to remember some other painters thinking that too.
Has there been another painter that's ever thought that?
You know, that there are no mistakes.
Yeah, there just aren't. And now we're going to come back up here, and you can see as we kind of layer this softly in, it starts to create those little folds. Let's see how she's looking now. So now she's starting to be like a magic thing, isn't she? She's so magic. I'm going to rinse my brush.
I so like the way that dress just came out so flowy. It looks like it just sort of exploded down, just
and then
flowed off her.
We layer these flowers in front of it, right? Then that's a whole other thing, and we'll play with those greens, and we'll play with all that, and then she'll have her hair, and we'll have her twinkle lights, and it will be
those wings
special.
I'm gonna zoom back in on those wings because those really pop.
They do, don't they?
They really do. What you doing over there?
I'm mixing a little more of my turquoise.
What are we doing with that?
Well, we've got the top, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Gotta finish up the top. So important to see how these things might play against each other and play together.
They love how her face just pow. Turned out really, really nice.
We're just going to make sure that we're showing the folds of the fabric, and we're playing with our color, see? To create our drama. Our drama is so important. Little highlight right here. Having some fun.
That's so neat.
I would say, like, I very much enjoy playing with clothing in painting. It is one of my faves.
You know, I have to say that watching you paint clothing is one of my favorite things to do.
Well, thank you.
Well, I mean, I like watching the trees and the flowers come in, but clothing is really interesting because of all the complexity of the fabric, and
How we get to talk about it.
there's a lot of gesture. That's the word I was looking for. There's a lot of gesture in it.
Well, yeah, a lot of your character development can be revealed through their clothes. I mean, you want it to be through their facial expressions and their body, but it's also possible to really tap into a lot of this, you know. Fix that right there. So what happened there is I actually need to bring some fabric bits up, but I might as well get my highlighting and everything done, and then I can always go back with my pink. And the hair covers pretty much that whole area. So it's like, it's a weird deal sometimes when you're doing anything, because you're like, oh, I should just totally go this other way. And then you do, and you're like, that was cool. I just went and got back into my pink, and I'm coming back through, and I'm just
That's crazy cool.
trying to make sure my garment feels like it's on somebody. Right? I think that's a big deal. Does your garment feel like it's there? And that's something that we, as artists, we get to play with that space. Is it there? I'm layering back with the magenta. It's going to be darker under the hair. You got to think about that. I'm going to come up the center and fit this on her a little bit more. And that's generally done by where you shade a piece or how you come in and add value. And you may find yourself playing between two color sets getting there. Right? How do you get there? That's how you get there. I'm going to hit one more value set, and then we're done.
Wow.
And we'll meet back up, finish up her face, hair, and the rest of it next time, I think. How do we feel about that?
I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. How do we feel about that? Is everybody good about meeting up next time?
I think so.
I think it's nice to let you guys have a chance to catch up and get your paintings to that next stage.
Yeah, I like that because they get a chance to come in and ask some questions about how we're they more update like on how we're doing the colors or the different brush strokes and things. I've seen that come in a lot more.
That's one of those wonderful things about being able to do this.
Guys, Cinnamon didn't use the hairdryer today, so I didn't have a chance to say thank you guys for coming and hanging out. We love having all of you guys out with us. It's so nice to have you. So thank you for hanging out with me while I've been switching the cameras and chatting with you. Love doing that.
I think this is going to be one of my favorite pieces that I've ever personally done on the channel. I think when she's done, she's going to be such a showcase. I cannot wait till January when I start to see the pictures of everyone who's done all 12, because I think you guys are going to have a gallery that's going to like explode your brain. I don't know of a class anywhere that's like this. And the ones that are out there are crazy money. And I think it's just so great that we can come together, do this work together, enjoy this journey. It's magical, literally. Now, tomorrow we've got another leg of the mermaid. I know we're doubling up, so it's like a little extra work for all of us, but hopefully you're enjoying the creative challenge. I want you to be good to yourselves. and good to each other. And I'm going to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.